like a minute for each candidate. The first question we have is, what are your main leadership characteristics that you bring to the CSA? And who wants to go first? George? All right.
Something I've really been working on in terms of leadership lately is my ability to listen. I really find that a genuine listener can make a huge impact because nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's from a book. It's not original, but it happens to work for this example. And that's what I think I can bring to the CSA, as well as my broad Asper experience.
Thanks.
As well as what George said, obviously listening is extremely important, but something I think that I would bring as a leader would be leading by example. So ensuring that anything that I am expecting of someone else to do, I would also do myself, and stepping in when someone else needs help, because I know that everyone here is a busy university student and has a lot of things going on. So really being able to step up for them when they need help and put in that extra work is something that I could bring to the table.
Perfect, thank you, Allie. The next question is, how will voting for you, as opposed to the other candidates, affect my student life? I'll have George come up first.
So it's tough to answer this really specifically, not knowing the context of the student who asked the question, but I think in general, I'm a very relatable person. I have lots of diverse experience, and I can empathize with most situations that Asper students will find themselves in. So I believe by voting for me, you're going to have an open-minded Commerce Students Association president who's dedicated, willing to listen to your ideas, and figure out how to implement them realistically. Thanks.
For this question, it's difficult to answer because it's a very broad question. As George said, it's hard to answer it if you don't know what the student is looking for within the student experience. So I think that's something that's really important that we need to do this year, is figure out what students want, because as of right now, we operate under the assumption that we already know and we understand. However, it's time to give out a survey to all the students and get them to give us feedback on what they're looking for, so we are able to give them the best experience possible.
Thank you. All right, the next question is, how do you plan on improving Asper's relationship with UMSU and other faculties?
Currently, I believe we have a fairly good relationship with UMSU. We have partnered on events such as TCW that was put on between the two of us, and we worked fairly closely on that. We also recently just helped them with the speaker series that happened in Asper when Arlene Dickinson was here just a week ago, or 2 weeks ago, I guess now. And from what I know from some past events, such as 5 Days last year, we had sponsorship from other faculties. But I think it is important for us to just keep it open doors of communication and see maybe what we can do to help them, so that, because we do have a very large resources, as many other faculties do not have councils such as ours. So it's important just to keep that communication open and keep working on the already strong relationship that we do have.
In terms of our relationship as the CSA with, or Asper with UMSU, I know UMSU has a lot of reach. They're a powerful force at the U of M. And honestly, I don't know all the ins and outs of our relationship with UMSU. All I know is that we do have a decent relationship with them as it stands now. I'm on the 5 Days co-chair. I'm the 5 Days co-chair right now. I can see I've been experiencing relations with them. They've been very good, very easy to get along with. And I do know about TCW, the Arlene Dickinson speech. That all went very well. So I'd be very happy to analyze that further if I'm elected, and see what's realistic and valuable for all students.
All right, the next question is, how are you going to mitigate the risks of dwindling corporate sponsorship in future years?
This has been a question that's been asked a lot of times. I think the most tangible thing I could say right now is to reevaluate the corporate sponsorship portfolio. Right now, the setup that we have on Asper is we have managers of corporate relations who have their set portfolio of corporations they're supposed to reach out to and get that sponsorship back. We have an old corporate partnership plan that has some things that aren't necessarily valuable to those corporations, and they've just been doing it out of habit. They could really be looked over, changed. I want to physically go through the entire corporate partnership plan, talk to the corporations, figure out what they want, and then add a new position to the council that is specifically responsible for getting new corporate sponsorship. Maybe several positions, whatever is most realistic.
To add to what George said, obviously it's important that we need to talk with corporate sponsors and reevaluate our events, but it's also time to implement such as the year-end social, which is a larger event, which can bring in more revenue, because we need more revenue coming from things that aren't our sponsors, so that stress on the relationship can be brought back and not as money focused, in order for us to truly figure out what is important to both parties. And by having something as a year-end social in a format such as Carol, we will bring in much more revenue, and that way we will not be as dependent on the corporate sponsorship, and that will help mitigate the risk of the declining corporate sponsorship.
Many students say it's difficult to get involved in Asper events and volunteer opportunities. What will you do to address this?
In my platform, I have a plan to bring in a student volunteer database. This would be a way to collect the information of students who want to get involved. And currently the way we do it is when we have an event such as 5 Days for the Homeless or for Shine-A-Rama, we recruit volunteers for that one event, and then after that, we don't ever contact them again. So when we find those volunteers now, they will be put into a database, and every time we have opportunities such as classroom talks or high school talks, we will be able to contact the students that want to get involved, and that will be an easy way and low commitment way for them to get involved, and that way we will be getting a lot, that way we will be able to use that information that we have stored from previous times.
That's a really great question. It was kind of addressed in both speeches, and I don't know how accurate what you mentioned about just the volunteers never being contacted again, because I know on 5 Days we do have help from the Shine committee sending us their lists, so there is some continuity with the volunteers that are being reached out to there from my experience. And my big idea for this challenge is to have a central main platform where everyone knows to get their info from. Right now we have the CSA website. It's not always updated. We have Facebook page that not everyone follows. It's hard to find for some people. There's a Twitter, there's Instagram, Snapchat, probably various other social media things. I think one central thing that everyone's involved in, as well as a physical schedule or some type of calendar in Asper itself, would be a great way to get everybody informed and make it easy for them to choose the things that they are interested in, and then prepare for those things and be active in the Asper community.
All right, we have our second last question here. How will you make council meetings more valuable?
This is a question that more so only involves the council members, except for the 2 or 3 times a year that we do have our open council meetings. However, there is a low turnout for these meetings because people just think they know what's going on and have other things going on. So one idea that I have thought of would be having these meetings more like the stakes have their meetings, and have a speaker come in and give them valuable information other than just a PowerPoint slide of what events are coming up and updates in every single portfolio. So switching that to online and doing that through emails every week, so that every month, so that everyone's updated on what's happening, and then having the whole council be able to come in, and for those open meetings having other students able to come in and listen to speakers and get valuable information from them, so that it's actually a good use of their time.
From my experience going to council meetings, sometimes it's tough to get everybody, a 55-person council, out to the same meeting. It's a long process. Everyone voices their ideas, says what's going on, and not everyone gets very engaged. Not everyone's super involved. I think a good way to combat this and make them more valuable would be to have more preparation beforehand, and not just an email saying, turns out that it's going to be based on the doodle at 5:30 on Wednesday. Send me your slides if you can make it. Everyone kind of expects to go into that meeting and sit there and watch a bunch of slides, and they'll pay attention to the things relevant for them. I think maybe it would be a good idea to talk about the main thing going on in ASPA right now, because there's always an event that's kind of front and center that's going on, although there's tons of things always happening. So a specific idea would be maybe not say like it's a mandatory event. Say, if you have a stake in this event, please voice your opinion now, and then come to the event prepared, and we'll have an open discussion about it. Thanks.
All right, to wrap up the submitted questions, then we'll go to, if there's any questions from the floor, we'll accept those. How will you hold yourself accountable to all the promises regarding accessibility and improved communication for student involvement?
So, as I mentioned in my speech, this is it's a very tough thing to have one right answer for. So, I'm going to make it my first priority to see through to what I think is good, as well as conduct a survey, seeing what you, all the students, think would be valuable to get everybody involved, because that's what matters. It's you, the students, who have a stake in this. I don't know the best answer. I think I have a good idea of what would work, but I need to hear from everyone else, and to hold myself accountable, I would say, if elected, I will make a specific goal to get every student in one group that all the information is presented in.
That's an excellent question, and one that I have been asking myself this entire past year as BPM is, how can I get people to listen to what I am putting out there, and how to really get the information passed from us to them so people know what's going on. And as George said, it's important to have a survey and really get feedback from everyone to see what they want. But I think it's also important to start creating more CSA brand representatives. As a marketing student, I know the most valuable thing that we have is word of mouth, and that is how we get people to come out to things. So in the coming year, if elected as president, I will ensure that the council, as much as I can, buys in and has all the proper information and tools that they need in order to convince their friends to come out. And after having done a survey to get feedback from students, I will have the information of how to target this information to them. Thank you.
Perfect. And do we have anyone that wants to ask questions from the floor? Anyone can feel free to come up and ask a question if they're interested. We have one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get up there.
Like it's on a board.
My question for the two of you, you both spoke about it in your speech, evaluating events. We've had events in the past 5 years that have been having dwindling numbers, both financially and attendance, as well as having events that have been canceled. Why do you think these events need to be evaluated, and how would you go about evaluating them?
Great question. In the past year, we did have one event that we did have to cancel due to the fact that it was just not serving the students anymore. This was Gong Show Golf. It has been going on for many years, and this year we only had 10 people sign up for the event, and we would have had to take a very large financial loss on the event, which did not seem fair to other students, and because we were spending the money on 10 students instead of spending money on 1,600 students for something that could be valuable to everyone. So that's why evaluating the events is important, because to hold events that are no longer serving the students is not useful for anyone, and those resources can be better allocated to other things.
Good question, Austin. As Ali said, if an event is no longer of value to a student or the student body, there's no use in hosting it. And I guess the criteria to evaluate those events to determine if that's the case would be what is the financial status of the event? Is it going to be a big loss? And if yes, why? And what are the benefits? If it's a net profit, then it's probably a good event. If attendance in the past has been good, it's probably a good event and students like it. There's networking to consider, enjoyment. I guess student enjoyment is important as well. And just based on those criteria, evaluating if they're, and probably more criteria once I've thought about it longer, that would be how I would evaluate an event and take it in or change it or take it out and do what's necessary to bring the most value to the students. Thanks.
Perfect, thank you. Do we have any other individuals wanting to ask a question to the candidates? All right, seeing none, I want to thank both Ali and George for your time coming out to talk to the students today, and as well all you for coming and being involved in the CSA election. So just remember that tomorrow and Wednesday are the voting days. The voting booth will be right outside the library, and we look forward to having you come by and vote. Have a great day, everyone.